This is FanSpeak, a weekly live show where the fans of comics and its community are our guests. Welcome to the show, everybody. Nice to see you in here. And of course, today we have a great lineup. We're first going to be speaking to Tim Lim, and then later in the second hour, we're going to be talking to Vince Rodriguez, another amazing artist. So it's going to be a fun show, guys. We got a lot to do, a lot to see, and we're going to get right into it. But of course, first thing we want to do is let you know about all our links down below. We have our Facebook group, which is called FanSpeak, which we'd love for you all to become part of and get involved and tell us what you're doing and show us your art. Give us your reviews, and just interact with us there and be part of the community that's going on. That link is right down below. We also have links for me for my Facebook and Twitter so that you can get in touch with me and tell me, Chester, put me on the show, and Chester will do so. You can also contact me there if you're an artist and would like to be on the fan edition of Drawn and Quartered. And I and Pixel will make sure that you get on there and put you in that lineup. We have our podcast through Anchor as well. If you enjoy podcasts, and the good thing about Anchor, of course, is that it is linked to all the other podcasts. So you can use it to for any of the platforms that you prefer. As well, we have our two links down below for donations, and those donations, of course, are used to give out giveaways and such like that here on the channel. So if you guys want to get involved with that, please do. Well, let's get right to it, guys, and let's talk to our panel we have sitting here. And of course, we're going to start out with the Booster, our mighty pie eater from New Zealand. How are you doing today, Booster?
I'm doing quite all right, thank you. But today it's not pie. Today I'm having bacon sandwiches.
Bacon sandwiches? Why would you so radically change your diet? I mean, you live on pie.
I do live on pie, but I'm out of pie, Chester. It's awful.
Oh,
he didn't even bring us any. He didn't bring us any.
He didn't. No, he didn't. He doesn't share. And of course, the problem is he was drinking far too much yesterday, so he forgot to do his shopping. I think that's.
I know. I made a bloody mess of myself last night.
Yes, you did, sir.
But it was good fun, though.
It was good fun. That was a great fan edition.
It must have been a rough Teen Titans episode.
Oh no, that was fan edition, Drawn and Quartered is what that was. Oh yeah, but that was a great show. We had really good fun. All right, let me move down here, and of course, Todd, the creator of Ignition and many other wonderful pieces of art, is here. How you doing, Todd?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. It's a wonderful day outside. I got my wife sitting next to me. She's not throwing objects at me, so it's good. We also have another artist sitting right next to him. We got Tank. How you doing, Tank?
Good, Chester. How are you doing today?
Dude, I am awesome. I really am. It's a great day. I feel wonderful. We got another person sitting right next to you. We got Thundero, the mighty wrench himself. How are you doing today, sir?
I am fantastic. I want some bacon, though.
Yes, so do I. Booster.
It's my bacon.
It's my bacon. All right. And, of course, we have the Denali Lama. How you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling great. No longer stuff from Thanksgiving dinner, but there's plenty left over. So I'll be eating turkey for a couple of weeks now.
That's how it always goes. Let me come over here to the chat real quick and say hello to you guys. Keep in mind that, of course, hitting that like button and subscribe button are certainly appreciated. That always helps us grow, and we've been growing very steadily. We're very excited. We're about to hit 300 here, maybe today. You never know. But of course, the most important thing and the most helpful thing for us is to share it out. Go down and hit that share button and let your community, your friends and family know what you're doing, and then have them come over here and join us and be part of the fun. All right. But I see Jordan is here, another fellow New Zealander to our very own Booster. We have Jimmy Ortiz is over here. He says, oh, good. He always follows you. Jimmy Ortiz, good evening to you, sir. We got Midnight Cherry TV and that absolutely gorgeous, sexy voice of his. We have Aldos on the farm just off Orwell Lane. That's a very long name, dude. Very long name. And we also have Kenneth Brown, new face here. Welcome. Nice to see you. All right, guys. Well, we're going to get right into it today. We're not going to dilly-dally at all. We're going to jump right into our interview, and we're going to talk to Mr. Tim Lim. Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on, Chester.
Oh no, it is our pleasure, man. Been looking forward to having a chat with you. You got some really interesting books going on out there, and you've been doing this a long time too. A lot of us are new. I mean, I was watching Captain Cummins and Ethan's channels and Jim Lee, as far as art channels and talk about comics. But then this whole Comics Gate thing happened, and it's of course it's expanded itself immensely now. But you were doing this a lot longer than that. I mean,
Yeah, it kind of depends on where we put the line of demarcation. I mean, I've honestly been working in comics probably for less than 3 years combined, but my start was actually in merchandising. I kind of took the back door into the comics and in the industry by working in merchandising for over 7 years already. So, um, yeah, it kind of depends on where people kind of think Comics Gate started because
mhm,
for me, at least, it began with politics, and that's a story that we can get into here in just a minute if we want to. But
sure.
yeah, I mean, I've been around enough to remember guys like Captain Cummings and Englentine and Douglas Ernst and Diversity in Comics when he first started. So I've been around for a while.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that with with Doug Ernst and Captain Cummings, of course, those guys are probably the longest that I know that have been involved in anything you could consider to be part of a Comicsgate thing. And I guess the first question we always ask is, well, what brought you to this community? I mean, particularly since you were kind of doing it before, but what brought you into the community here? Now, of course, understand from our point of view, Comicsgate is not a singular thing. We have some people who are very, very devout to the idea of Comicsgate. We have other people who just want good comics and are sick of the nonsense. So the community is very wide and broad. It's not a unique thing, but nevertheless, it all falls under that umbrella. So what brought you to this? What got you into this community? Why did you go political? I guess is the question.
So when I was working in merchandising, one of the things that I saw was gradually I was reading less and less comics, to put it frankly. I was working on merchandising for characters that I wasn't familiar with. Captain Marvel probably being the big one. The Carol Core logo, I actually designed it for merchandising. Spider Gwen, I did her first piece of merchandising artwork for New York Comic Con. But the more research I was doing into these characters, the more I felt alienated because I didn't feel like uh, it just wasn't my cup of tea. And a part of me was thinking to myself, well, I don't know if it's just because there's an agenda behind it or if it's just because I'm getting older and comics have stayed the same and I've changed. Well, it wasn't until really I started to notice the political landscape change and more voices crying out, like Captain Frugal, Douglas Ernst, Captain Cummings, that I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm not going crazy. These are people who are seeing the same things that I'm seeing. And after 2016 came and went, one of the things that I had always been asked to do was you should work on a comic. And I honestly had no real interest in doing a sequential piece of work.
Hmm.
I've always wanted to be like just a cover artist or just a pinup artist. And finally, people were like, well, a lot of artists are scared to say or do anything. We want to fight a culture war, but we can't because conservatives in comics can't speak out. They either have to be quiet or they get blacklisted. So Mark Pellegrini and I, ironically, it wasn't a comic that we first started out with. We had this idea for a book called Thump, The First 100 Days. And the idea was we were going to put out the first piece of pop culture pro-Trump memorabilia out there. And we partnered up with Brett Smith, who had just finished the Clint Cash graphic novel adaptation with Chuck Dixon. And because he was eager for something new to be published, we said, he approached us and was like, hey, do you have anything that you feel like would be suitable for this market? And we said yes, because there's this untapped market of Trump voters out there. And we feel like we have a product that they're going to want. So we did Thump the First 100 Days. And where we have this kind of luxury is Mark and I, this is not our full-time job. We have outside work. So we were not really in fear of being like blacklisted or being looked down upon because we were outsiders anyway.
I
So we
see.
did Thump and it did exceptionally well. We went into 9 printings as of earlier this month. So it's still continuing to sell really well. And then after that, people were like, well, we like what you did on that book, but that was different because it was like an illustrated children's book almost. Can you do something that's more in the vein of comics? And then after that, we did My Hero Macadamia, again, playing off the Trump phenomenon. And after that, the rest is history. So if you're looking at a specific place where we kind of stepped in, it's kind of difficult because we feel like we've been on this continuum of seeing changes happen across a span of time, happening as early as, say, 2014, with the rise of these characters and the kind of hijacking of legacy characters and being perverted or twisted into something they're not, which is political propaganda.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what they've been doing, and that's exactly what we've been asking them not to do. But I have a picture up here, which you can see, and I'm sharing with the community here, of you holding that book. And it's funny because the very first time I ever had anything published in a book, I did the same thing, man. I went to a bookstore, I found it. Yeah, it felt so good to have something in your hand that you've actually produced. I know the feeling. It's cool. Of course, mine was nowhere near as interesting. Mine was thesis on some kind of dusty old thing. But yours is much
That doesn't
cooler.
sound interesting at all.
But I know the feeling.
Oh,
My point
that's
is, I know the
cool.
feeling, and I know several other people sitting up here know that feeling too. If to go into a bookstore and find something that has your name in it, right? It's a very cool thing.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
But what I want to do is I want to drop this over to the Tank because you're talking about merchandising, and that's what Tank does as well. So Tank, why don't you go ahead and ask some questions here to say hello to Tim Lim, sir?
Tim, so my only real question is, can I get a Thump plushie?
I wish, but right now we're currently sold out. We actually went through about 300 of them that Brett Smith, who was a creative director and editor, he actually personally fulfilled all 300 of them. So if you go
That's
on the
awesome.
on the Thump Tower Etsy store, if there's anything left, then you can snag them there. But I don't even have any left myself, except the 2 that I have in my personal collection. We say that one of them is in my collection, and the other one is in the Thump Presidential Library on display. So that's it. However, if we do decide to make a sequel to the book, we are going to, at some point, make some other ones. So we'll just have to keep our ears to the ground and see how that pans out.
Well, I was going to ask, if because that's awesome that you have one. I didn't look, and that's just fantastic news to hear. I love to hear that. Have you considered looking at domestic manufacturers for a general market? A little Thump plushie, I think, has a broad market appeal.
Yes.
I think you'd have to
Anyway,
have you have to have a pretty big operation to do something like that. Because, for example, I think honestly, like our competitor, and they're a really big competitor, is like the Trumpy Bear, and they have like all these advertisements on television and stuff like that. I don't know who their source is or who they're using for manufacturing, but that's a big operation. And right now, between Mark and I having jobs, I don't think that's something that's feasible, but that would be great. I mean, if there was like a really big demand for it, yeah, I can see us doing that. We would just have to be approached by someone with lots of deep pockets before we
all
even
right, folks,
consider
you heard him. You heard him. Go to change.org, get that petition going.
Absolutely.
I'm on it.
And I actually enjoy on the Facebook. You always drop up your little pics or little videos of the real life rabbit that you have going around. What is the name of the rabbit?
So I have 5, so you might see 5 at any given time. You have Gus, you have Mr. Bennett, Thatcher, Moneypenny. If you see any of them, those are I guess the cumulative inspiration for.
Okay, but you didn't
Thump.
call any of them Peter.
No, I did not call any of them Peter.
You know why, Booster? Because he's not lame.
How dare you?
Uh,
Peter Rabbit is rare.
No, but they're cute. I especially love that one, the very long hair lop you have. What's that one's name?
The long haired lop is I think it's either Thatcher or Hugo. So they're actually 2 Angoras.
Oh, I see.
And they look almost identical, but yeah, they're the really fuzzy ones. Like they look like floating clouds, essentially.
Yeah, they do. They're very cute. Rabbits are always people always love the rabbit. It's kind of like looking at a smiling baby with a lollipop, you know. Um, but yeah, let's go ahead and keep moving down and get some more questions in here for Tim. So let's go to Thundera, and whilst you do that, I'm going to go over here and show some pics of your black hops, which I thought was kind of cool. But go ahead, Thundera.
Hello, Tim. How are we today?
I'm doing well. How are you, Thundero?
I'm fantastic. Speaking of rabbits, My question is actually very simple. Is there any deeper meaning behind the rabbits, or do you just
There's
like rabbits?
there's not and this might either be a negative or positive for me, but I'm kind of like Lenny from Of Mice and Men, except I don't have destructive tendencies.
Tell me
The
about the
Okay.
rabbits.
Yeah, the rabbits. The reality
Tell me
is
about
that,
the rabbits.
tell me about the rabbits. Like, let me pet the rabbits. So, my wife and I have 5 rabbits cumulatively, and it all started with a rabbit. When I first met my wife, she had one rabbit, and I liked it. And then I got my own, and my rabbit is really intelligent. So, it follows me around everywhere. It's basically like a really smart puppy. And as a result of that, over time, we ended up accumulating 5 rabbits total. And they always say to draw what you know. And my secret is this: I'm not a very creative person at all. I am used to derivation and satire and parody. And so the only thing I can think of that's original in any extent is rabbits, because even though they're known in popular culture, it's very rare that you have like a rabbit protagonist. But I can draw rabbits. I mean, that's all I look at pretty much every day. So there's no real deeper meaning to it. It's just that that's what I'm surrounded by. It's what I know. You have other artists who will draw from still life, where maybe they're married to a beautiful model and they just draw like beautiful women all day because that's what they see all the time. I am just surrounded by rabbits, and so that's what I know. I can see them in my head, and so I draw what I'm familiar with.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
that's that. No deeper philosophical meaning to that. For a while there, this gets really weird, but for a while there, for about 5 years, I owned guinea pigs. And so,
Uh-oh.
well, I don't want to say luckily, but my guinea pigs passed away after time, and then rabbits came next. So who knows? In a different world, if I had nothing but guinea pigs, then maybe all my works would be guinea pig inspired. But it was not meant to be, obviously.
Well, I'm
Wow.
glad because rabbits are far better.
Well, we
They
have
live longer.
they do, yeah, and we have a llama with us, so maybe the llama has some guinea questions. I don't know. Go ahead. You got
We
some
do
guinea questions, Denali?
I was gonna say, because I was looking back in, I think your company is Ninja Inc. and you mentioned in one of your bios that you had a pastime of herding guinea pigs. So I was going to ask you about that as well.
Yeah, I had 5 guinea pigs, and my goodness, the oldest one lived to be about 7.5 years old,
Wow.
and I had him all throughout grad school, and he was great. I mean, guinea pigs are amazing. The only problem with them is that they have to be caged. They can't be free roam. So they're not quite as intelligent as rabbits in that regard. You can potty train them, but it's really, really hard. And I never succeeded in doing them. But I have a fondness for guinea pigs as well, just because I lived with them for such a long time. Rabbits, on the other hand, people are really amazed because you can potty train them like a cat. I mean, they use a litter box like a cat does. You can teach them simple tricks. My 2 rabbits that I have upstairs and downstairs that I had before my wife and I got married. They're completely free roam. They can roam around the house at will, as long as they don't interact with each other, because then they fight. But people are always amazed. I mean, if we have guests over, they're like, "What is that on your couch?" And it's like, "Oh, that's my rabbit. He's watching television." And they're just like, "What? Really?" It's like, "Yeah, that's just what they do."
Yep. That's cool, man. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over here to the chat. I'm going to acknowledge some of the fans that have come in, but I am also going to take some questions for you. Feel free to answer them or not as you like. This is a chat. Uh, Kenneth Brown is here. I said that earlier. Welcome. We got Eric in here. Hello, Eric. Nice to see you. We got Serena Sketches. She says hi, Tim, and hello to you,
Hi,
Serena.
Serena.
Hey. We have let's see. Eric comes in and he says Avi Green was doing Comicsgate like reporting years ago on his blog. Okay, well I don't know that. I don't know Avi Green. You ever heard Avi Green?
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard about him through Douglas Ernst, because Douglas Ernst is a journalist for the Washington Times, and he has pretty much been documenting kind of milestone moments in Comicsgate. And Avi Green, who has retired, I don't know if he's retired from writing completely or just writing about comics, but he was one of the people who has been kind of was kind of a pioneer of the movement from its beginning.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's excellent news. Write that down, Denali, please.
I quite like Kenneth Brown's question. Did you see that one, Chester?
I'm working my way down there, dude, and I do see it.
Oh,
And
my
I see
apologies.
that Vince is in here. He found his way in on his own. Thank you. Welcome here, dude. We will be getting to all your wonderful art here very shortly. How you doing today, Vince? I saw Vince in the chat up here with us. Is he muted or something?
I think he's having some kind of technical issues.
Okay, well, I'll deal with that on the other side.
Mm.
But welcome nevertheless. Kenneth Brown does have a statement. I wouldn't say it's a comment. He says Tim's rabbits are monstrous abominations. I don't think he would agree with you, Kenneth.
That's not the one I was referring to, Chester.
Okay, I'm working on it. How is
Okay.
it? Wait,
Two
wait.
of them are monstrous aberrations.
Oh, so you do agree. All right. Well, we have Devil's Angel here. He says, Hail Raven, of course. We have Albus, and he says, okay, well, this is a question you may or may not answer. Will Tim be addressing his stepping away from cash grab and all that kind of craziness went on to that? Do you want to talk about that or you want to leave it be?
I can only state what I've stated publicly.
Mhm.
Nurkic and I left cash grab due to personal reasons that that's it. I mean, there were reasons that I cannot disclose because of the personal nature of what transpired.
Mhm.
And one thing that we decided to do was not to perpetuate drama. So I will
That's
not
fair
add
enough.
further to that.
Yes, well,
That's all good.
you get a clap from me, dude, because one of the things we do over here in FanSpeak is we do not perpetuate drama. We don't talk about it.
drama's
We
good.
don't interact with it. It's we're here to have fun with all the comics, all these Indiegogos. We're here with Picture Trader and his Indiecron and promoting these books. That's what we do here. So good for you, man. All
Thank you.
right, let's keep coming down here. We have some just people interacting with each other. Yeah, and of course,
So
Jordan says he doesn't think it's irrelevant. Go ahead, Danelli.
yeah, I was going to say, I know that some of the things that you're doing in the future, I think you were doing a crossover with Rags. I don't know if it's
Oh,
just going to be a cover
nice.
art or if it was going to be a actual project with them. Can you give us some information or some details about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is going to be a Rags Punchline Black Ops crossover. Right now, the script is actually going to be written by Brian Ball, who is also the writer for Rags. And I think his co-writer, Trent Luther, might have a bit to play in that as well. But basically, we're actually going to take a hands-off approach. He is a really good friend of ours, and we trust him with our property. So basically, we're just licensing out our character to him for him to play with and just let him have a ball with it. We want to make sure that he and his team do a really good job and make sure that they're paid for it. And we just want to see the product out there. We're not really too concerned about making like a huge profit on it or anything like that. We're just really excited that we're involved in some way, shape, or form. And I'm sure the Punchline guys would agree as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, those are definitely projects that I backed. So I'm waiting for her Punchline to come in March, and then I picked up the Rags before they went out of print. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
Rags
funny.
is a fun book. I like that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Rags. So I mean, we talking about like who we've met in this community and the help that we've gotten. So, Rags, Brian Ball, he was one of the first people to reach out to me when I set up Twitter and was promoting Thump. And the first variant cover I did for someone in our network was for Rags issue 1. And I never forgot that. I mean, this is a guy who basically gave me a gig sight unseen, and he and I have just had a really good working relationship ever since. He's a true friend. He's kind of like me in that he speaks his mind, which is, can cause some flack sometimes, but in the end, he's loyal to people who he likes and he works with. But I'm really glad to see that his book took off, because not only has it sold out, at least on more than 2 occasions, but even on eBay, the secondhand retail market is insane for his work. So I'm really glad that he's succeeding and that we can be a part of it in some way.
Excellent. And then I know that the last update that you've done for Trump Space Force is in the printers, and I guess you're waiting for your signatures and some of the other artists. Yeah. So we're waiting to see when do you think the fulfillment will be complete once you get those signatures done?
So the last update I actually did, it was actually on Twitter, and it was on Tuesday. So I'm recovering from a cold right now, but I drove 9 hours to the fulfillment place, and on Tuesday I signed every single copy of it. So 1,700 copies. The books are all signed, and what we're waiting for is we're waiting for the patches. The patches are supposed to be arriving on December the 1st, and so that week of December, all the books will be sent out. I don't know in what order. I don't know if there's going to be a systematic way of doing it, but we're anticipating that the first batch of books should be delivered by mid-December easily. But I have with me, I have at least 100 copies of extra books, and I've proofread them, looked at them. The 1,700 I personally signed and looked through, and it looks fantastic. I'm really happy that the book turned out not just really well, but beyond even my expectations of what it should be. So I'm really excited for people to get them. I'm hoping people will get them before Christmas so that they can review them and get kind of excited. But some of the perks have already gone out. The dormant perks, the $250 posters, the limited ones, those have all been mailed out. So those have all been fulfilled already. The Space Trump figures have also, the Space Trump figure, I'm sorry, the big backer one, that has also gone out as well. So so far we're on schedule to fulfill on time.
Well, that's definitely awesome, because one of the things that we talk about in our previous shows is, getting the fulfillment and books on time as promised. And I see that a lot of our projects, that's on Indiegogo hasn't fulfilled on time, and we said, as before, we're not upset or anything, because I know it's a huge learning curve, because it's a small business basically, and you have to do everything from drawing to distribution of fulfillments. But I know it's something that the other sides kind of look at us and jabs at our weakness. So we try to figure out, what would be the best way to, meet the fulfillment dates that I guess you guys set goals. I mean, is there a process that for example, your campaign, is it something that because you've been merchandising before, that's helped you with this campaign to set reasonable deadlines and expectation for fulfillments?
Yeah, I've always set pretty tight deadlines for myself, and the reason we chose November, December was I had to calculate how long it would take me to finish the book, how long it would take Brett Smith to color it, and then how long it would take me to letter it. And then your normal printing and shipping dates, which varies between 5 to 7 weeks. That was something else I had to factor in. Plus, one thing that we did to make things easier was I knew which of our perks were going to be individually fulfilled by the people who are manufacturing them. So, for example, the statuettes, we had an agreement that was signed that said that the person manufacturing the statuettes, he would be responsible for 100% of the fulfillment once he was paid. So that put a huge burden off our shoulders, because that's the one less thing that we have to pack and ship. Same thing with Dave Dorman, and he's a good friend, so obviously he's very trustworthy, veteran of the industry, and he said, I'm going to make these posters, these really large posters, and I can print them and sign them and ship them off all on my own. And we're like, fine, that's great. And he did it, not having to worry. I don't have to worry about him not fulfilling, because I never had any doubt that he wouldn't. So that was a huge help as well. And so sometimes by kind of treating these people as third parties that could engage in this fulfillment process, it was a huge benefit. So that all that left for us to consider was our own timetable, plus with the printer and the fulfillment, what things they would have to do. And we streamlined it so that basically it's like flat mailing the book, the postcard, the trading card, and the patch. That's one set of items that need to go out. And then in the second set, it's the same items plus a hat. So I tried to keep everything kind of even, keep my spreadsheet pretty straightforward down the line, not very complicated to figure out. We did learn a couple things, though, for next year. If we ever run another campaign for any other project I work on, I definitely think that if you don't have a big operation, the best thing to do is go small. Nasser Rabadi's Stardust model, even though he barely had any perks, it is actually a pretty good model. He's able to keep the price down, still make a tidy profit out of it. and manage his books getting fulfilled in a reasonable time. So I encourage people who might not be thinking of a huge operation to kind of look at what he did, because I think it was actually pretty good from an economical level.
Well, that's definitely good, because we do look at Indiegogos and we try to promote, the right, well, not the right, but the best practice for those campaigns to succeed. So that tip is actually good. We would look at Stardust, and that is something reasonable, where he was asking for 8,000 and was able to make 15,000 afterwards.
Right, exactly. And, you minus overhead. And again, I'm guessing here because worst case scenario overhead will be maybe half of your fulfillment. It's not, it never is. But let's say your overhead is in the thousands. You still have to subtract that. And you have to subtract, obviously, what you want to make out of it, plus your bonuses. And sometimes the number can be misleading because you can make, let's say, a 6-figure number. But if you're throwing in these really big perks, like statues, toys, things of that nature, then the number can be misleading because obviously some of that is going to be in your overhead. And so if you make, let's say, $100,000, but in the end, you're only getting paid 8,000, is that worth it compared to someone who's making $20,000 and still makes 8,000? Which of the two do you want? Do you want the really big number with the tiny payoff, or do you want the marginal profit with the same payoff? Personally, I don't like the headache, which means that I'm always trying to think of the more economical thing. If I'm going to be making a number that is relatively the same, regardless of how much I'm making in the long term, I would rather have the more economical value. I would rather have the smaller project because I know that the number is closer to what I'm expected to get in the end. So I don't know. I think some numbers people, when you look at these projects, it can be daunting, but that's something that you have to consider is how sometimes it can be kind of misleading depending on the pricing of your perks and stuff like that.
Well, that's definitely things for people to consider, in future projects as well. For people who are listening, who are thinking of jumping in Indiegogo, you have to think of these factors that I think a lot of these projects don't really think about,
Yeah. And we're really appreciative of that kind of information here. That's stuff we're looking for. That's the things we talk about, huh, Denelli?
Absolutely. I know people's been craving for us to do like a Indiegogo tutorial to kind of show them step by step how to promote, because it's two factors, it's the marketing and it's the work. And if you don't have both in sync, that's basically the thin line of where it fails or succeed, basically.
Now I'm going to take and let Todd have some questions for you, Tim, because Todd is a fellow artist. But first of all, I have to ask you a question. Do you know who Pope Fire is?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I like Pope Fire.
Well, she is one of our crew here, and she, of course, via Jordan today, or was that Joshua Hughes, is asking the question that she always asks every guest we have, and you must answer it. Who is your favorite Titan?
Starfire?
Oh, good man.
Oh, look,
Good
you got
job.
it right on the first try.
First try. Awesome. So yeah, Todd, being a fellow artist, you have some questions here for Tim?
Well, yeah. You mentioned one other person, but you must have a team of other people that you haven't mentioned. For instance, on this Trump Space Force, you must have a colorist. That why don't you mention all your team and tell us what everyone else is doing and how you went about finding them and thought they were perfect for the project.
Oh, that's a great question. So, Chuck Dixon, when President Trump first announced that he was having a space force, he jumped on that right away. I mean, not even 15 minutes after the announcement came out, Chuck Dixon, we're all in like the same social circle. So Chuck Dixon was like, I want to write this. I want to write Trump Space Force. Who's with
That's
me?
amazing.
And I happened to be there, and I just said, me. And I think he knew to count on me because we had already done 2 Trump books. And so he knew, okay, well, I know that we can rely on Tim. Well, Brett Smith, who was my colorist for a few pages on My Hero Academia, was also the creative director for Clinton Cash and was our editor for Dump. He happened to be in the same chat and was like, I'll color. So we already had basically our three crucial team members. We had our artist, we had our writer, and we had our colorist. My co-writer, my co-creator, Mark Pellegrini, we brought him on the back end to kind of help with the script a little bit, because Mark is really good at humor and writing jokes. And so he kind of came in to polish it up a bit. I mean, not that Chuck Dixon needed any real help with it, but Chuck's forte is definitely writing a story, whereas we wanted to put in some elements in it that were funny. So that was it. So between the four of us, that's what you end up seeing. We ended up hiring Dave Dorman, who helped us tremendously with Black Ops. He did our cover for it, and then Graham Nolan, who's friends with Chuck Dixon, he did our back cover for it.
Wow.
So yeah, when you get the book,
Dude.
you'll see the front cover as Dorman, back cover as Nolan.
Wow, that is so awesome. I mean, Chuck Dixon is we're all fans of Chuck Dixon. So how lucky are you to be able to get to work with him? And then all those other names you're dropping are awesome. How well is Trump Space Force doing, by the way?
It's doing really well. We've sold, I think, the rough estimate is 1,650 copies, and that was with it not going into an online store. Going back to the previous question about the tightness of deadlines, my thing was this, and we actually talked about it with, I talked about it with Chuck, and I talked about it with Brett. Brett, by the way, has merchandising experience too. So this is where we were kind of seeing, I don't want to say we saw eye to eye on this, but we could definitely see where the other person was coming from. The question was, do we keep it as an online store or not? And my thing was, I want a tight deadline. I want to make sure that we're held to it, so that there was the definitive end, and that people had to know that we were serious. When we said that we would end the campaign on a certain day, that was it. And the day is over and you've missed it. We apologize for that, but we have to make sure that we hold to our own deadlines. And so we only extended the campaign by 10 days after its initial run, just to let some people get to it because of some media exposure that we got from the Gateway Pundit. So after that, we said, hey, Gateway Pundit did this thing on us. People are finding out the campaign just now. We're going to extend it for 10 days. But after that 10 days, it's done, not going into an online store. And that's what we did. And I had to do that for myself, because there's always this danger of, well, I have this runway, and there's all these people who are backing it, and they're still backing it. I can take my time, and fulfillment, I said November, December, but I can postpone it till February, March. And I thought to myself, no, as a backer of other projects on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, I like my projects coming out on time. And so personally, as the artist, I was like, I don't want the temptation of doing that. I want to make sure that when I say that the book is going to be finished and fulfilled by November, December, that we stick to it. So Brett and I talked, and my thing was, I originally wanted to end the campaign and not extend it. But Brett talked me into extending it by 10 days, which we did. And so we were very happy with the numbers that we made. We had each set a goal for ourselves in terms of how much we wanted to be paid. And frankly, it was honestly more than our normal page rate that we would normally charge. So it was a great success from a financial point of view. We each kind of walked out making more than we had initially expected. And so that was very good. It also gave us a little bit of money to have extra for our for future endeavors as well, in case we want to work on future projects. So a lot of the money, and this is something that I think is kind of behind the scenes talk, the worst thing that you can do is when you make a profit off these books, to pocket all of it. If you have an LLC or a corporation, you want to save some of it, because there are other things that might come down the line. For example, if a perk needs to be either refunded or reordered, you want to have some funds for you to do that. And you also want to have some funds for anything that you decide to do in the future. That way we can actually pass the savings on to the consumer. Because for the next project, we might not have to charge as much, because we can actually lower the price, because we have already made kind of more profit on the front end. So there's a lot of this logistics that are involved with how things work and how we measure success versus failure. But in the end, we were very happy with how things turned out.
Wow. It's we really do appreciate that kind of information here, the insides of those kind of details. We're always talking about distribution and fulfillment and many other things like that. This is something that we do over here at FanSpeak, so I really do appreciate that. Also,
I
thank you all to the
I have
chat.
another
And
question.
Todd, yeah, I'm going to let you have your question, chat. Todd, just give me a minute. Just want to say over here to the Todd that okay. Oh, you are okay, Todd? Are you having a problem,
Yeah, I'm
Todd?
okay.
Is there an issue, Todd?
No,
Are you okay?
he said, I'm gonna go to Todd because I bet he has questions. I
Yes.
had asked one. You didn't let me ask another. Sorry.
Todd,
Go.
Todd.
Do it.
Okay.
I got
Now,
you.
chat. How you doing, chat? Thank you guys very much for over here supporting us and all this interaction you're doing over here. And keep in mind that we really appreciate those hitting that like button, even though Eric says I have to earn it. I'm doing my best, Eric. But we also are really close to 300 on subs. If you guys haven't subbed to us yet, please do get us over that mark. But there is a question here, Tim, from the chat, and then I will go back to Todd. The question is, could you ask Tim how often he had to do changes on his t-shirt work, and if any of the change requests annoyed him? So I guess we're talking about a t-shirt on one of the projects, probably Trump Space Force, I would assume.
I think he's referring to just my merchandising work in general, because I originally started doing licensed t-shirt design. A lot. That's the short answer of it. A lot of changes. Typically, depending on the license you're working with, there are some that are very demanding and they want particular changes made. I don't think I'm at liberty to discuss any particular one, but I can say that one of them for sure, I had to go through at least 7 alterations of it. That's actually a criticism that is not limited to t-shirt design. It's also something that happens with any type of work that you're doing, like cover work, especially. Whenever you have a license or a licensee and they have a team of lawyers who are looking at what you're putting out there, it's not unusual to go through multiple revisions. I actually tell people that merchandising artwork will make you have a thick skin because of all the times that you're going to be told to change things. And it has nothing necessarily to do with your proficiency or your style. It is just at the whim of whoever the client is and what they want. So, yes, that's a very good question. T-shirt design, even though, I mean, I like it and I encourage anyone who wants to start somewhere, even though I encourage it as a very good field, just get ready to make as many revisions as the person that you're working with wants, because it's going to happen.
All right. Well, thank you very much for answering that. And I believe, Tim, I think we have a question from Todd, maybe. Todd?
Okay, so this is my
Okay, but I have a
introduction to
question
Tim.
first. I'm sorry, guys.
Go ahead, Todd, man. Go ahead.
I've heard about you, obviously, since I joined this community. I've, I know bits and pieces of you, but you come across here as sort of exuberant geek, just like, a lot of us, right? Exuberant geek with a lot of enthusiasm. Just wondering if you're building your own YouTube content, because you're really, there's just something about your cadence and stuff that I sort of, that I enjoy. Like, oh, how you're talking about your book, obviously, and so there's that bias of you're a proud little baby. But I think you do really well with some other ideas and content and sort of building a bigger empire, so to speak. So do you have a channel and stuff?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. So I do have a channel. We're not updating much at all. I mean, Mark and I wanted to do content, but frankly, I guess 3 factors, actually. So one thing I thought about doing was doing drawing tutorials, because one thing I do as part of volunteer outreach is I do like doing art lessons for kids, and I typically do it for like our local library. But there's just, I don't know, I don't think anyone cares. I mean, I think if you were like a Jim Lee or a Frank Cho, yeah, I think people would like to see what you have to do. But on the scale of talent out there, I don't think anyone would really tune in to anything I would have to say. I don't think they'd be interested. So we scratched that off the table real quick. The second thing was we thought about doing like comic reviews, but honestly, we'd be pretty dry compared to some of the more talented people out there who do reviews. So that was strike number 2 against us. And then strike number 3 was we thought about just doing general off the wall conversations and just speaking off the cuff. But I'm not an entertainer. Neither is Mark. We think that we're entertaining amongst ourselves when we talk, but it's very different. And so I don't think there's anything that we could offer to the community on a regular basis. I think we do our best whenever we're guests and when people ask us specific questions. Trying to come up with daily content is something that I don't think people would be interested in. So for the time being, we're not developing the channel because there's not really anything that I feel like I can add to it or that he can add to it as well. Maybe go ahead.
I kind of disagree because you have sort of a stigma around you now, and for not of your doing or whatever, it doesn't really matter. But I think you could break the veil and sort of punch through that stigma by just being you, and like you're saying, Mark just being Mark. I don't think you necessarily have to have such a planned out thing. I think if you talked about some of the past projects and future projects, I think that'd be just fine. But I think I would say I would go for it just to sort of punch through any kind of bad negative vibes that might be out there. You know what I mean?
I completely understand, and I think that's great. I appreciate the input, but the way that I'm seeing it is actually kind of the opposite. I think the stigma is well deserved because I am withholding information that people want, and I am not going to reveal the information as to not perpetuate anything. So I feel like if people want to cast stigma on me, that's fine. And I think by me doing a channel that perpetuates it, because then I become a target. I think the best thing to do is for me to just vanish. I think the best thing for me to do is to just vanish. I think people don't want to they don't want to hear from me. Whenever I appear, back in July, they would call me the transcript bunny. And I would just get that repeatedly, no matter where I went, despite me not ever bringing it up. So I feel like that me being a bigger target actually perpetuates the drama that I don't want. And I think creating a YouTube channel, you can already anticipate what people are going to say. They're like, oh, well, now he has his YouTube thing. He wanted to do his own thing all along, and that's what he's doing. He's trying to steal subs from so-and-so. And I don't like that. I mean, the reason why
let me interject.
I want to keep a low profile. Oh, go ahead.
Let me interject. You don't steal subs, you share them. But I am disappointed. You missed an awesome opportunity talking about other channels that do great comic book reviews. You didn't say us. Thanks, man.
Right?
Right. Huh?
Yes, you too.
You hit me right in the heart, man.
Why aren't you trying to steal our subs?
Yeah. Yeah, but no, we don't there is no stealing subs, it's sharing subs actually.
Right.
I never understood that concept. Yeah, no, I get you, dude. You do what you're most comfortable with. I do think you do have a good speaking voice. I get what Todd is saying though. All right. Well, we are definitely coming up toward the end of the interview with Tim. But is anybody left in the panel who would like to ask a question, or anybody in the chat? Because you guys are mainly talking about stuff that has nothing to do with the conversation as usual. But anybody up here want to have a question for Tim?
Yeah, I didn't get to ask a question, Chester.
Well, you're comic relief booster. I mean, come on. Really?
How dare you? I have a brain sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay. How much have you been drinking? Tell me.
I haven't actually been drinking. I have an energy drink.
Well, then you can ask a question then. Go right ahead.
Okay. There was a question from the chat I really wanted to ask.
Goodness gracious. I do apologize, Tim.
Would you eat a rabbit?
Believe it or not, I actually would try it.
Oh, rabbit's excellent.
Rabbit is awesome. Yes, I love rabbit. Yeah. But
unfortunately, know how to make
rabbit. Oh no, I've eaten rabbit my whole life, dude. It's very good food.
Yeah. So, Tim, what would be your next projects after the crossover with Punchline and Rags? Do you have another follow-up for Trump Space Force or Black Ops or another new project entirely? And if it's a new project you can't say, we understand as well.
So I have something pretty big as far as I'm concerned coming out within about 2 weeks that we're keeping really tight, close to the chest. and I'll be revealing that pretty soon, pretty much like the day before it actually comes out. So it's going to be one of those fly-by-night things. I have another project that's also pretty under wraps that's supposed to be debuting in March of next year. But next year, we're going to be pretty much sticking to our IPs. So we're going to have the sequel to Black Ops, which is Black Ops 2 Hair Trigger, which comes out in late fall. And then My Hero Macadamia 2, I'm announcing it now, is going to be coming out in summer. And it's going to be called My Hero Macadamia 2 Winfinity Wall. And that will be coming out in summer of next year. So
That's amazing.
Yeah, we're just gonna stick with kind of what we've come up with this year. I don't really have any IPs that I feel like working on outside of those two. I think those two, I mean, they were pretty solid wins for us, and so we just feel like, hey, people want sequels to them. Let's just continue doing what we've been doing and just running a tight ship. As far as Trump Space Force is concerned, that's all up to Chuck. I mean, honestly, it was Chuck's project. He might have moved on as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure that he's very happy with the way it's turned out. But if he wants to work on a sequel or follow-up to it, I'll be all ears. I'm just waiting for him to give me the go. But Chuck, he is so involved with so many different things that I don't know if you guys have heard, but his Levon Cade series got picked up by Sylvester Stallone's production house.
No, we
so
covered
he's gonna
it.
Be pretty big.
Yeah, we covered it on the channel. Yeah, it was great news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
wonderful.
there's actually a question here from Zach Hawkins for you. He said, will there be another chance to get Trump Space Force? Yeah, he missed out.
We're going to try and have it on a secondary market. So we still have our Etsy store up and running. And once we sell out, once we fulfill the books that were pledged, whatever is left over, we are going to try and put online so that people can buy it through the Etsy store. So yes, we are going to try and offer it again. And we have already been contacted for having a stripped down version appear in Diamond next year. So you can keep your eyes peeled for that one too. It will not be the Indiegogo version, which is 48 pages. It'll be it'll be a shorter version without the perks and stuff attached to it.
Oh, excellent. Well, there you go, Zach. Midnight Cherry TV also says, oh man, Hair Trigger. Genius, Tim.
I like Midnight Cherry TV. He's a great guy.
He is, and he's got a wonderful voice. Eric also says,
does.
all ears, unintended rabbit puns. Yeah. Chat is having fun. Well, now we have another person in here with us who's been sitting very quietly. I hope his audio is working. How you doing, Vince? Can you hear me, Vince? Is your audio working?
I don't think he's doing very well. I don't think he's doing very well at all, Chester.
I guess not.
Or maybe he just doesn't want to talk to us. You just here to taunt us. I think
maybe he is. Maybe he is. But I hope you can work on getting that together. But just speak up when you have your audio working, Vince, okay? But anyway, Tim, thank you very much for coming on our show. This was a lot of fun. We really enjoy all the background information, all the details, all those numbers. We love that stuff over here. And it was really cool to see that you have more things coming and you're continuing with your IPs. And just keep in mind in the future, when you do bring those projects out, certainly feel free to contact us and come on back here and pitch it with our crowd, because we all over here love to get Indiegogo stuff, man. So you have any kind of closing comments or anything you'd like to say, Tim?
No, thank you very much for having me on. I just want to say that, yeah, if you ever have any questions in the future regarding the logistics of fulfillment and pricing in the industry and things like that, please be sure to contact me. Let me know. I'd be more than happy to come back on. You've been very gracious. Thank you for the panel as well. The questions have been great and wonderful, and I don't mind.
Even mine?
Yes, all of them.
No.
Wow.
Tim, don't lie to him. Stop.
Yeah.
In my position as a professor teaching undergraduate and graduate school, I field questions. That's kind of what I do. I should not have to shy away from answering any question that comes my way. I'm more than happy to do so. I want to say that if you go on Facebook, obviously follow FanSpeak. It's a wonderful community, and you guys have been very gracious. Just reach out to me and let me know if you have any questions, either now or in the future.
Oh, excellent. And we'll definitely contact you about that kind of behind the scenes information and, when it comes to production and those kind of things. We're very interested in that here. We want to help promote that. So thank you very much for that offer.
Can we reach out to you individually too? Is that possible? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach me on Twitter.
Okay.
My handle is at PotusStump. If you try to follow me on Facebook, you can, but as most people here will tell you, it's mostly nothing but capybara, rabbit, guinea pig, and otter videos. So you might be thinking you got the wrong person, but it's the right person. And I will answer questions pretty much wherever I get them, as much as I can in my capacity.
Thank you, Tim.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And we're going to go and transition over here, and we're going to either talk to Vince or talk about the news, depending. Of course, Tim, you're more than welcome to hang on and chat with us if you'd like. But I do know you had said you were busy. So, welcome. Thank you very much. And yeah, awesome. Let's move on
Thank you
now.
very much.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you, Chester. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
All right,
Bye.
take them.
All right, now let's talk here about Vince. Vince, what's going on, man? Can you hear me? We got to get Vince fixed here.
Yeah, I think he can hear us. I think he's still having some mic issues. So I guess we can kind of talk about he's a freelancer.
Yeah, well, let's wait till we get him on, and then we'll
Mhm.
jump over to him. So just
Sure.
Vince, keep trying to get that fixed. Maybe have to drop out and come back in. But when you get it, just speak right up and let us know, and we'll jump right into you. But while he's working on that, like I said, Vince, maybe it'd be good if you just drop out and come back in. That might solve the situation. But try to get that fixed for us. All right, guys, let's go ahead and while Vince is doing that, let's cover a piece of news that we have that I think
Tell me with something Ezra Miller related.
it is not
No,
Ezra
just
Miller. I do apologize. We don't have any Ezra Miller related things today,
that
but we
jingle
do.
you had.
It is a shame, but we do have something to talk about, and I'd like to go over here and share this with the panel. Denali, I'm kind of curious what you think about this. Is this something that is interesting to you, or, oh, I don't know. Tell us what's going on, man.
All right.
Yeah, Paul
So
suggests that this poll is rubbish.
yeah, basically, Screen Red is talking about new poll that Americans really want Back to the Future 4. You know, when I saw Back to the Future 3, I really wanted it, but in this current environment, how they're doing things, it wouldn't be the same, and I frankly would be afraid for them to do it. So I'm with Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale when they said over our dead body that there won't be any future reboot sequels, etc. for Back to the Future 4. And basically Bob Gale said, if you really want Back to the Future 4, play Back to the Future the Tall Tales games, because that's the closest you're ever gonna get with a sequel for the franchise.
Hmm. Thundaro, please bring the lightning down on these jerks.
No. Not only no, hell no. I don't want them to even think about touching that ever.
Hmm.
Ever. The fact that anyone would even think this is a good idea to have a poll about. First of all, I'm an American. I can tell you right now, Americans are stupid. We don't know what we want. And if any Americans actually really want to see a Back to the Future 4, they're morons. Back to the Future is one of the only pure trilogies in sci-fi that actually works. It's great from beginning to end. I mean, some are better than others, but some people like each movie differently. This is one of the reasons Star Wars is trash now, because they just couldn't leave. George Lucas couldn't leave it alone. They do this all the time, and they need to stop. And any Americans who think this is a good idea, just leave. Go to Canada where you belong.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Wow.
Thundero, I'm raising my hand. You can't see it, but I'm raising my hand. I'm an American, and I know exactly what I want. Barbecue.
Well, that's you. That's different.
Okay. Okay. Vince, how's it going, man? Shout at us. Wow, why is he not working? I wonder.
Have you got the pink cable in the pink slot for
Hey Vince,
microphone?
make sure you're in your Hangouts it's set to the right mic, because mine does it all the time. It resets itself.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I have
that's a
to.
good point. Just go up to the gear on the Hangouts and click on that, and it'll bring up all the things you're using, and make sure you're using the actual mic that you are using. That's a very good point. Thank you, Thundero. There's a gear right up next to the plus sign, and next to the in between that and the three dots. Just click on that and check what your mic is, Vince. Okay. But whilst he's doing that,
Bad Midnight Cherry, Back to the Future, Ezra Miller as Marina McFly, and Doc as Susan Sarandon.
I think
Yeah.
Ezra Miller should just be in Back to the Future 4 and play everyone, honestly.
Booster.
Booster. You have to forgive him, Thundara. He is a foreigner. You know how they are.
That's true.
And I do think it should be set on his polyamorous farm.
Oh, God. Booster. Goodness gracious.
I can't even make fun of him because he's not Australian. I could bring up the Kiwis, but that wasn't them. That was the or the Emus. That was the Australians who lost the war. Close enough.
Yep, they lost the war to the Emus. I'll never stop giving them crap for it. It's hilarious.
Goodness gracious. Tank, you got an opinion on Back to the Future 4?
No. 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 No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, there is your response from the amazing Tank Ferret. He says no. And I do agree. This is ridiculous. We don't need this nonsense. We don't need a reboot. We don't need a fourth one. Leave it be. It's done. It is what it is. The story was told. Honestly. And Vince has dropped out and come back in and get it. Boy, I hope he can get his mic working because I really want to talk to Vince. I love his art. But Todd, do you have an opinion on this Back to the Future thing, man?
No, I don't really have an opinion on it because these guys are way too. Obviously, it would be a complete reboot with different actors, and these guys might get cameos or something. But if it's not them and not that chemistry, I don't really need to see it again. It was fine like it was. It's one of those timeless things that you watch every time it's on TNT or AMC or whatever. It's just, it doesn't need to be messed with.
It doesn't. And of course, the chat over here has many comments involved with this particular question. Captain Canada says, "Hey, watch your mouth about Canada." Someone said something about Canada. How dare they? We love Canada here. And all their, I don't know, what does Canada have? Cheeses, maple syrup, beer,
Maple syrup.
maple syrup.
Jesus.
Ryan Reynolds.
Wrong as all. That's it.
Oh yeah,
Green
Ryan
Bay.
Reynolds. There you go. That's about it.
Canada's
They had Chris Farley, but gone.
And Michael J. Fox is from Canada,
Oh
by
yes,
the way.
he is, man, and he's the most awesome, best Canadian. We accept him as an American. We love him. As far as the rest of you Canadians, let's see if there's anything else in here in the chat. I did, but it won't respond. I see. Oh, dude. Yeah, just keep trying, man. We'll see if we can get you, and if not, we'll work it out on another day, dude. But we definitely want you here. But you know what? Whilst Vince works on that, let's go take a look at his art. How about that?
Hey, Chester, real quick. What's he trying to use? Is he just using a computer to try and get on? Because we could get him. We might be able to set it up through Discord and through your Streamlabs, so we could at least talk to him.
That is true. We
Maybe not
we
tonight,
could
but
delete
I'm
that.
saying other night if we can't get it working.
Yeah, let me check on that. Let me pop this. Let's see, I got to do that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump up in here to the Hangouts. I'm going to stop this, and you guys talk about something, and let me go work on the backside here. So I'm trusting you guys to not have dead air. How about that?
You know what? I have an Ezra Miller article that we can talk about while you're doing this.
Yes.
So while we were talking about Ezra Miller, I went to another Man magazine, and the title of this article, which was on November 14, was "Why Ezra Miller is the male style icon we need right now."
That's great and all, but why do you have like 5 ASMR tabs up?
Why? Because it's all.
Are you trying to fall asleep in our stream, mate?
Yes, actually, I have been.
Oh,
It's
thank
all
you,
about
Denelli.
sleep.
Thanks. Love.
Yeah.
Oh, it could have been worse. That's all I'm saying. It could have been
Why
worse.
Ezra Miller is the male style icon we need right now. Okay,
Yeah.
first, another man, problematic. He doesn't identify as man. He doesn't identify as any gender. Why don't you check your facts, another man? You whatever phobe you are.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness me.
This is kind of scary, if you ask me. This whole Identify with what you are, and be proud of it.
How dare you, Todd?
You know? No, I don't.
If I want to be a lizard person, I can be.
So they're identifying about this.
Oh God, what are you doing? I guess I gotta white box you or something. Ugh.
He looks like
Fine.
Kylo Ren did it with a garbage. What the hell?
All right.
It looks like a cover.
Now, let me interject right here real quick. Vince, if you're listening still in the chat, I put it in your Facebook as well. If you're listening in the chat, I just sent you a Discord. Let's see if we can't come through the back end here. So go ahead. Go ahead, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, continue your horrible ranting on this beautiful human, Ezra Miller. Go ahead.
Okay. So where was I?
Who's doing the dishes?
Someone's doing the dishes.
Are you at a restaurant? What is going on?
ASMR at a restaurant tonight.
That's not me. That's not me. Because I wear a headset, so there shouldn't be anything coming from the background. The only thing should be coming behind is a pug barking at me. There you go. We now know.
Mr. Aziz, I'm sorry I'm late. Go do the dishes. Oh, Lord. All right, go ahead.
Zach, as I said, came back to the come through the back end while talking about Ezra Miller. Oh boy, I think that was a poor choice
Nice
of
connection.
words. Poor choice of words. Okay, I guess I'll continue sharing this and finishing this article up. I don't know if it'll work. All right, so they're saying because he's like David Bowie, part Jesus, part Ziggy Stardust, and I'm like, no,
Oh, Lord.
no,
Have mercy.
David Bowie,
No.
you say it.
Outfit.
I no, wrong. This is wrong. So many wrong and wrong.
What is he doing?
Okay.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Oh, finally.
All right.
Hey. Success.
How you
Finally.
doing, mate?
All right.
Yeah,
Why
breakthrough
did you
here.
stop? Why did you stop sharing? He might
I
want to know what's going on with Ezra Miller.
I don't think he has any interest in Ezra Miller at all. Thank you. Thank you. Mister.
All
Well,
right.
Vince, hello, man.
Yeah.
Welcome. Nice to have you here, everybody. This is Vince Rodriguez, and we're here to talk about you, your career, and your art, sir. So welcome.
Thank you for having me aboard. I appreciate it.
Oh,
I apologize for the disaster. I mean, for some reason, my microphone or something in the system copped out, and I could hear you guys, but you guys couldn't hear me. And I just went and got the wife's laptop and managed to get in through there. So at least we're hooked up. So
we are, and
It's okay.
We've been
We're
there,
professionals. We
done
know how to
that.
set the show.
and don't worry about it,
Been there,
Vince.
done that.
Any trouble that
so I'm
we
happy.
have,
I'm happy.
no, any
Huh?
trouble we have. No, I said, don't worry about it. Every trouble we have, we just blame on Booster. It's always his fault.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's most likely true anyway. To be honest, I'm pretty awful.
It's true.
Yeah, I can't help it.
All right, now, all right. So let's get back on track here, and let's do this interview with Vince. Now, I'm going to go ahead and share with everybody some of your art here while we talk to you, Vince. And of course, the first question that I want to ask you is, how did you get started in art? Because as everyone can see when I put if you don't already know who Vince Rodriguez is, you can see by the art that this guy is amazing. I love your art, dude. I know you and I had never spoken before, but you might have noticed that I'm one of those guys that's linking and commenting on your pictures every time you put them on Facebook all the time. I'm one of those.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, go ahead, dude.
Hey, it looks great on YouTube, Chester. But do you want to share it with the panel?
I don't know, maybe. Here you
Right?
go. Fine.
There you go.
So
Oh, he's showing his full color stuff. Awesome.
yeah, it is.
No,
Go ahead,
it
Vince.
looks
Tell us,
absolutely
how did you get
Hold
started
on.
in art, man?
Give me a second to log on to your YouTube page because I only have the what do you call it, the Google thing, the Google page you sent that I linked in with you guys to talk, but I don't have the FanSpeak page. And let me see if I can log in with you. I got so I can, if you guys are posting images, I can see what you guys are talking about. If you have any questions or something, hold on, I'm almost there.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, there we go. All right, there we go. All right, sorry about that. All right, so yeah, go ahead, shoot.
Yeah, no, the question is, how'd you get started in art, man?
Wait, give me a second.
Okay.
About that. Yeah, no, is it the YouTube would shoot off and it's like it's at a different time frame that we're talking, right? So it kind of it's a little behind what we say or before, right? No, I mean behind.
It is, yeah. Where
Yeah,
there
okay.
is a delay of a few seconds. Yeah, that's right.
There's a delay. Okay. All right. Anyway, I put that on mute. So anyway, yeah, the way I got started, well, it really began. I loved drawing since I was a little kid, and when I was about 4 or so, I used to doodle a lot, especially because my dad would draw, and he would draw airplanes for me, and then I would go off and start doodling stuff. He'd inspire me to do stuff. So I've been kind of doing that, and then as I got older, when I was 6, I discovered comics, and that really got me to copy comic books and draw them and stuff. So when I went into high school, I was still drawing, getting better. It was something I couldn't give up. It was in my blood. Then when I was in high school, I decided, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to pursue this art thing, or I wanted to be a comic book artist, but I live in Miami. I didn't want to move up to New York. It's what you had to do at the time. So I decided to go directly into the field. I go, this is what I love. I got to try. And I started by going to a furniture design company, and then I got into the T-shirt companies and stuff like that. So I would do everything freelance. So I've been freelancing most of my life. I never went to school for drawing. It was all self-taught. I would just pore over books and comics hours upon end, and I'd really beat myself up on trying to do the best I could. So as far as how did I break into art, it was basically the love for it, and the closest I could get to doing comics or anything having to do with cartoons was going into the T-shirt designs, and I would take whatever other freelance jobs I could get doing any kind of illustration. But in T-shirts, you could do a lot of comic style work or cartoons or whatever it is that they needed, and that's basically where I began doing all the things. And in the '90s, I broke into storyboards for TV commercials.
Yeah, I've
and
seen
I
this.
stuck with that. Yeah, so that's pretty much how it all came together. Of course, comics always being the love of what I wanted to do in the background, but couldn't really get around to doing it. And go ahead.
No, I was saying, well, storyboarding is very similar to comic book layouts, sequential art, I would assume.
Yeah, that's probably the closest I got to doing comics, because it's basically what it was, is sequential artwork, and it paid very well. So
well,
yeah,
we
I
have a
stuck
lot
with
of
it.
opportunities over here to make comics. If you're interested in doing them, just talk to me after, dude. We have a lot of
All right.
comics in motion, so if you want to do a comic book, you got people writing for it. So, yeah,
Great.
I've been showing the art here to the chat. Of course, you guys any questions for Vince, just pop in and ask it. But let's go over to Tank. Tank, I've been showing the Vince's art here, and you can see absolutely how stunning it is. Of course, I think you know Vince as well.
Oh yes, no, I've been a long time fan, and I've
Thanks.
actually inquired. I've inquired about work before, and I have you on my secret list of awesome people to hire.
Wow.
I
Thanks
really
so much.
admire. I really admire. I watched your. I've been a fan of yours since shortly after you got into doing digital stuff. When you left a lot of the traditional stuff behind. You started applying your traditional skills to your digital stuff. One of the big questions, of course, that everybody wants to know is what kind of software do you use?
I use just two. I either use Clip Studio is what it's called now. The one I have is Manga 5.
All
It's the
right.
same thing basically. I use that for a lot of the inking and things like that. And I use Photoshop for the more painterly type stuff or coloring. It depends because I also color in manga. But if I do a more textured coloring, I have a better time with Photoshop. So I juggle between those two. Sometimes Photoshop has effects that I can apply to a drawing that I already did in Clip Studio or Manga. I port it over, or vice versa. Either way, But if it's inks, it's strictly Manga. I used to try to ink in Photoshop, but I used to tear my hair out trying to do so, and I couldn't take it until finally some friend of mine on Facebook he suggested that I try it out because I had it. I had a tryout copy, and I go, all right, I've had that sitting there. Let me give it a shot, and I did, and I was like blown away. I go, the response was fantastic, so I stuck with that, and I go, this is going to be my go-to program for inks and comics, and I also use it for storyboards. The amount of time I save on doing storyboards with that also is immense, which is really good in a commercial sense because you're always on tight deadlines.
Yeah. Oh, and I've watched as you expanded your black and white technique by using real photo references. Can you expand on that? We have a lot of people in the audience that love to learn about this stuff.
Well, it's I don't know how I can explain it really. It's pretty much nothing new. I use manga to do my pencils as well, and so I'll ink over that, and I've never in the past I had a pretty tough time trying to do let's say portraits and stuff like that. So I had to really practice a lot, and I've done that. I've used Facebook as a platform to get feedback on and also to improve on my techniques and things like that. But which do you want me to speak about? The inking, was it you said?
Yes, the inking.
Okay, the inking technique. Uh, Basically, I've done inking since I was like in junior high. I picked up brushes and pens and stuff like that. And since I loved comics, I used to practice my technique, quite a bit, all throughout until high school, even through the 90s. I still had to draw traditional. So inking was always part of the arsenal. And so I know the characteristics of inking, with either pens or brushes. So I knew what I wanted from the software. It was just a matter of trying to master the line work. And to the point where I could get exactly what I needed. So basically, there's no magic button. It's practice. You focus, pick a style that you love, that you could would want to implement, and just practice and more practice. And that's the only way to really get there. Really, as far as inking techniques.
And of course the tools, obviously you know how they're going to react, whereas as you might buy a new nib tomorrow and you put ink in it and all of a sudden, oh my god, what did it just do? The digital tools react the same way every time you use them. So you can sort of predict what they're going to do. You know the line. If you choose the nib or flexible nib, you know how the line's going to start and how it's going to finish. And that's the one thing that I've always liked about inking digitally is because, nibs wear and they spread, they start to flex and they start to bend more. And then all of a sudden you're using a nib and it's like, oh, that line is way too thick,
Absolutely. I agree. That's why I wanted to give up traditional and I gave up traditional in 2005 is when I went completely digital then, because I needed the efficiency for my commercial work. I always wanted to do it since like the late 90s, but the Wacom and things like that, I hadn't practiced enough on it. I was always a little intimidated by it, so I finally got enough guts to do so at that time in 2005, and really I sat myself down and began practicing, because all I would use the Wacom for was coloring. I'd scan. I'd scan.
Hello? Oh, did we lose him?
Hello, hello.
No, sounds like we lost him again. Oh well.
You guys hear me?
Oh yeah, you're
Yeah,
back.
we can hear
All
you.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I first came about your work when you were doing these incredible hair studies. Every 2 or 3 days, you would throw something on Facebook in a lot of the same groups that I'm in, and it would be a study in hair, how you inked it, and even including every once in a while you would color hair, and I was like you were really pushing me to get better at hair, because you can make the pencil marks are easy to make, and so you can sort of pencil fast, but you cannot trace pencil lines of hair. You have to have sort of an arm that's relaxed, and you gotta swoop those lines really quick and fast and sort of feather them. And it's not people say, well, inking's tracing. No, it requires a certain amount of technique. I was showing Rick this morning, and I said, watch the speed of my cursor, how fast it's going. It's not a slow thing, because it'll never look right if you try to do it as if you're tracing over your pencil lines.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sometimes require a bit of a violent trace to really get some of the lines to achieve that effect that you're talking about.
Right.
That's something I've done since probably high school. I realized that I had to do those violent types of traces, and it was difficult to do because you really can't do that sometimes with a brush or a pen, because you'll leave it behind. The line will cut out on you or something if you go fast enough. But traditionally, I had to work maybe at a certain speed to lay down the line and try to get what I needed at the pace that I had to use the tool in.
Mm-hmm.
But with the digital, I can actually throw the trace really fast.
Right.
And it'll respond.
Because you're not catching.
But manga has that.
You're not dragging through the paper at all. You're not too wet or too dry. You can predict that tool, and you can do it. And it's almost like traditionally you do it sort of slow, but digitally you have to sort of, like you're talking about, a violent pass, and it's the faster the better, and it starts real thin and it ends real thin, and that's the trick to it, is not to have it look like it ends with a sort of a flat bottom. It ends with a nice little arrowed look to it.
Can I actually
It tapers off.
I have a question for you. We're sitting here looking at this Colombo and Lilu, which I have side by side here, which is a wonderful Colombo, by the way. But I'm curious,
Thanks.
looking at the Lilu here. It's a beautiful piece of art, and I noticed with a lot of your stuff, you have what almost looks like brush strokes on the face, and this is digital, right?
It's a completely digital.
Yeah. So why did you
I
decide
often
to go
get
with?
asked if it's real or not.
Yeah, so why did you decide to go with brush stroking technique and instead of having a just a very smooth look? What was the decision on that? I love it, by the way. I'm just curious why you went that direction.
The reason I wanted to go in that direction is because I personally don't like the look of a digital paint.
I see.
Painting, it has that. It's too digital, too cold for me. Even though I left traditional, I still want to be able to achieve those traditional effects, because to me they're a lot more personal. They're warmer, you know. To me, the digital, the actual, because I mean, I see a lot of digital paintings which are fantastic, but they have that digital feel to them. See, and that's what I didn't want to do. I wanted to try to achieve more of a traditional type of effect, because it feels nicer to me, you know.
Yeah,
So
no,
that's the look I tried to try to, you know, achieve when I do them.
awesome, dude.
And for the coloring, what was the base color that you kind of use for Lilu? Just out of curiosity, because I know there's some colors in the chat kind of wondering how you manage that effect, making it flat. And I know in your one of your previous interviews, you said this was all self-taught, that you didn't go to any schooling or anything like that. This is more out of experience than anything else.
Yeah, if you ask me technically how I achieve any color effect, I really wouldn't be able to answer it very correctly, because I since I didn't take any art theory or any of those type of things, I just put down what I want to see if I can achieve it, right? Trust me, it doesn't come easy for me a lot of the times. Sometimes I don't get the color that I would like to get. Which tones are you talking about? Like the skin tones, or
Yeah,
which
the
base?
skin. Yeah, just the skin tone. Just to talk, because I think you made more of a layering motion,
Mm-hmm.
um, to kind of make that skin tone effect. Because when I see a lot of colorists working out and they're doing, either self-taught or just beginning, they just put this bland kind of color, and they're like kind of surprised, why doesn't it look flesh tones kind of deal, and not realizing maybe you have to layer it more. You have the primary color that you start out with, and then you kind of layered it as well.
Well, it depends on whether either if I'm gonna get it from the color from my imagination, or if I'm using reference to go by, to try to achieve that certain color that maybe I like. What I usually think of it is I may put it down in blocks of color. I'll set up a palette, or just pick from. I normally don't make palettes. It's very rare. I just basically use what's already in the software. It's the same as the brushes. I don't build brushes. I never build any brushes. I just simply use exactly what's already in the software, and it's not many. I mean, probably between both programs, I use only a matter of 5 or 6 different brushes. And in as far as the inking one, I always use the G pen in Manga, but in Photoshop I'll use 2 or 3 different variations of different types of brushes that they have. But I'll lay down a block of color if I was to do it, because that's pretty much the way I see it. I look at the highlights and midtones and darks, and I just lay them down in blocks, and then I start doing the blending there by coming in with the brush strokes, and going in between each color. I don't know. I really wouldn't even know how to explain it to you guys, because it's not something that I'm used to doing. If I was more of a teacher, I could probably figure something out on how to tell you that. But it's just I just sit down and I do it. I
Well,
really,
there you go. I understand that completely, dude. We do
and
have
I'll
a
be
question.
surprised if it works out.
Wow,
So,
your art always works out, dude. I do have a question here from the chat. I have Argos Creations, or Bill, and Bill says, Vince, who are the artists that you find the most moving? Who you imitate or are inspired by? When you see their works, just strikes you with a sense of admiration.
well, the 2 top artists that I grew up with that were like the basis of my art was Jack Kirby and Richard Corbin.
Oh,
Kirby was the one that really set the foundation for me, and I learned a great deal from his work, especially for action, and that wanting to draw lines fast and achieve the drawing quickly. because I knew Jack had to draw. Well, he drew really fast. I mean, the guy was inhuman. He was like, he could draw like 12 pages per day. It's unheard of. And with Richard Corbin, I discovered a whole new way of seeing comics, which is in a three-dimensional form. So that threw me into a whole new ball game and a new learning curve for me. I always loved his style of work and how he achieved his colors and lighting. That's another thing that's behind my colors. I learned a lot from Kirby because every time I would see his work, it was always so colorful, no matter what it was. His work lent itself for great color. And Richard Corbin did the same thing. He did just totally amazing pieces of work, and his colors were just out there. So I studied their work immensely, and I picked up a lot from there. So those two guys would be the two main guys that I could put. But I mean, there's a few other artists that I can mention, like Bill Sienkiewicz, who I really loved his style. And I followed Barry Windsor Smith, John Buscema. As far as inks, from Barry Windsor Smith and Tom Palmer. Those guys were like, pretty good in their approach. I thought they were fantastic. And also Alex Raymond was another guy. Wally Wood and Al Williamson I followed a lot too.
Well,
and Bernie Wrightson.
Well, Argo's creation here absolutely appreciates your answer. He says, bam, Kirby for speed and action and mirth, Corbin storytelling and lights and darks. Those are great answers.
On the money.
On the money, yeah. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let Booster ask you a question, but Booster only responds to pretty ladies. So let me go back over here and let's find something proper
That's my man.
Booster. Here you go, Booster.
Nice.
Here, this is for Booster, so he can interact, because otherwise you can't get his attention is a problem.
Thank you. That is a lovely bottom, I must say.
There you go, Booster.
No, I am actually an artist myself, so I was wondering
he lies. He lies.
if you could teach me the MS Paint techniques.
MS Paint? We should go back to Corel Draw or even older tools than that. Holy crap, MS Paint.
How do you? MS Paint is a king's program.
Okay.
Okay, Booster.
That's a good one. MS Paint. Yeah, that one's a charmer.
Yeah.
I've tried working with that one.
See, Booster, I gave you the opportunity, and what'd you do with it? You spoiled it with MS Paint. I gave you a chance to ask a question with this beautiful butt sitting in front of you on the screen, and you got to waste it. Really? Really?
Do you think I could draw a butt like that on MS Paint? I think I could if I worked hard enough.
Yeah, well, you keep trying. Well, I love it. Yeah, that would be cool to see. Now, I kind of did that as a transition. I mean, you have a lot of different work, but you do have a lot of sexy, pretty ladies. What is the female form just simply a more interesting form to work in, or?
Yeah, definitely. I love drawing females. They're incredible subjects because they have so many varieties of looks and shapes and everything that and colors that is I find so incredibly appealing. They inspire me a lot, especially as you guys may have noticed, the hair that I've been getting, known for, and the people that follow me on Facebook. I love drawing hair. It was something that I didn't do much of up until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. In Facebook, when my postings in Facebook is where I began trying to tackle the hair, because I said to myself, hair is not easy to do. It's a bit tricky. So I got to see if I can somehow tackle this thing, right? Yeah. So I began practicing a lot and posting and getting feedback, and I tried getting better and better, and I have managed to come away, with learning a few things on it. But you know who I learned? The first guy I went to learn to begin to tackle hair was Bruce Timm.
Okay.
That's the first guy. Why? I'll tell you why. Because if you look at his hair, the hair that he draws is in blocks or patches. You see, it's very simplified. So when I saw that, I go, "Oh, that's where I got to go. That's where I have to begin." And that's a good way, I think, to maybe start off. And then I would start getting a little more complex, getting that same technique and complicating it a little more and a little more, and studying photos, of course, until I can finally kind of decipher how to get around the whole bend of drawing hair. That's kind of the approach I took.
Of all these ones that I have been showing up here, just going through and looking at the hair specifically, which one of these do you think is the best representation of your hair?
Let me see. My hair? Well, I have no hair anymore.
Well, not you.
uh, I
This one's kind of nice here. I like this one as well. What's going on with the hair?
So, Vincent, what is your technique in drawing good hair? Kind of like, do you just white it out to make the strands?
No, actually, well, are you talking in inks or painting?
In inks.
In inks, it's mostly, the majority of the time, it's just the individual black brushstrokes.
Mm.
It's very rare that I'll come back and do some touches in white. That's only when I feel that it absolutely needs it. But I try to achieve the highlights just as the negative space, So I'll throw down the lines and start taking away white to the point that I need it, and it's a balancing act. Really, it can be real tricky. So
How long
if you can, huh?
Now, how long did it take you to finish, say, the Lilu piece?
The Lilu I did in about a day.
Oh wow!
A few hours, I think it was. I can't remember exactly, but it was a few hours.
Wow.
And yeah, generally I do each of these drawings within a day. The postings that I put up, I do them within a day. The inks I do it within a couple of hours, maybe, or 4 hours tops, depending on how detailed they are.
Well, I tell you, one of the things I love about this community here, because I have my Facebook is just full of artists and people in the community, right? And every day I get up and I check my Facebook, and it's just full of new art from people. And I just love waking up in the morning to amazing new art. And I always have been seeing yours, and oh goodness, I click on it. Oh wow, that's awesome. I'll say something. So for me,
glad
it's
I had
really.
that effect on you, Chester.
I'm sorry, what, Booster?
I said I'm glad I had that effect on you, Chester.
No,
It's really
Booster.
humbling.
No,
Thank
Booster. No. But I really, really, I enjoy it. I love that aspect of it. Just all the great art we see every day. And I've been enjoying your art for quite a while. So I'm very happy to have you here to talk about it and your process and stuff. Now, of course, Booster would prefer that I only talk about the sexy ladies. But I want to talk about this Columbo, dude, because I think that is awesome. Why did you choose Columbo for one? And yeah, just tell me about this piece, dude.
Well, the Columbo was, I used to love watching Columbo, and I all of a sudden I hadn't watched it in like forever. So it came on a TV channel that I came across, and I was really excited to see the show again. So it's one of those things where like from that happening, you get inspired to do it. I go, man, I love the way he worked so much, and I go, I'm gonna do like a little tribute to him. So I sat down, I was really inspired, and I really had fun working on that piece. It was really enjoyable. So I wanted to figure out what style am I gonna do it, and so I just sat down and pretty much let it flow, and it came out as such. I mean, I was kind of using that style already. I was working, because another thing is that with the whole Facebook, I've been using Facebook as a platform to experiment with a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you may have seen in the past that I don't always do the same thing, you know, like always inks or always pencils or things like that. I try to experiment a little bit here and there, maybe try to change my style once in a while to see what happens
You do
and
that
what
a lot,
feedback I'll get.
actually. You have
Yeah.
a comic book style, or a style that's good for comics, and then you have sort of a woodcut sort of look, sometimes like a almost close, not quite Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein, but you do somewhat some of that
Hmm.
with a lot of like I remember a Billy Idol piece that sort of reminded me of that. But you do have, people should know, because he's not really showing a lot of that here. You have a style that you would use in superhero comics that is perfect for them.
Yeah. Since you mentioned it, I try to the art that I post, especially I post a lot in How to Draw Comics group, uh, but a lot of times I put stuff that really it may seem that has nothing to do with comics. Let's say like when I draw the ladies, or
Hmm.
maybe some type of drawing that you think, well, what does this have to do with comics? But I think of it as like it's an experiment in technique. Is maybe what I can hopefully share with everyone that actually can be applied in comics. You can apply it. I think most of the stuff that I posted on there, you can easily pour it over to comic books. I mean, Bill Sienkiewicz demonstrated that with using fine art in his comics. You see, and I
Right.
think he's the one that inspired me to experiment with all that kind of stuff when I saw his work way back then.
I
And that's
just
what I'm kind of trying to do. Huh?
I just meant to say that you have a cleaner style also. Like obviously, whatever the project may be, you would sort of adapt some of the different looks that you've shown over the years and go, what would work for this would be this, or what would work for this would probably be this. Street level, or say it was crime noir. You have a style to be perfect for that. But you're adaptable to the whatever the product might be. So I was just
Yeah.
sort of trying to relay that to everyone, that we're seeing some things here that have sort of a woodcut look or this kind of look, but you do have multiple looks that you have shown, like you talked about in How to Draw Comics, and I always comment, that when you show something that, oh wow, you know what, this would be perfect for this, or this would be perfect for that, and because I know you're hitting on different things, which all, like you're saying, all of your different looks would be usable in comics, but they wouldn't work for just everything.
Right. Right. You're absolutely right. And I do it a lot. I switch around a lot just out of curiosity or experimentation. And to, I mean, I can't, I won't, every day that I sit down to do a new piece, uh, I try to kind of figure out, okay, if I want to draw this, what style would I feel good doing this? Which style am I going to pick for this one, or which style am I going to go with on that one? Some of them, in my mind, they lend themselves for a painting type look. Others I see right away, and I'm thinking, oh, this would be perfect as an ink, or inks with color. I'll decide on the technique depending on what I'm seeing, and I'll be upfront about it. The majority of the stuff I post on Facebook is referenced because a while back I figured, I'm not going to be posting original ideas because a lot of times that people they're going to take it
Yeah, sure.
and maybe even reproduce it in another part of the world, and it's probably happened already. Who knows how many times? If somebody likes it enough, they'll say, "Oh, I'm going to print this out and sell it." So if they do, these are works that I'm only doing for practice, and I'm detached from. It's not something that I'll take personal. I mean, if I did see it, okay, fine. I probably may not like it, but it's already based on an image, on an existing image. I just drew it in my style. Like I'll get an old photograph because I also like drawing very retro, and I'll draw it up from there. But it's an already existing photograph. So in that way, if I do something that's going to be original, I'm just going to do it maybe in a production, either for myself or for maybe, let's say, a comic book company. Then I'll try to do something a little more original. But in this case, it's just for show, and hopefully for people to enjoy. You know.
Oh, cool. I
So
love this piece that's up here right now. That's a very very it's just I love the look of it. It catches your attention. It's a great piece. But we haven't heard from Thundaro in a while. Would you like to interject here and have something to say to Vince?
Um, Not really. I had a bunch of questions, but you guys have pretty much asked them all. So basically, I'll just do a statement. You are fantastic. Like, these are fantastic works, especially that, like you were talking about the hair. That's some of the best I've ever seen. That isn't legal, of
thanks.
course. And I think it's definitely something you should talk to Chester and these guys about. I think you could. I think you'll do well.
Yeah, no,
Thanks so much.
absolutely, dude. If you
Yeah,
know,
I gave him a heads up about doing something, so he gets the idea that we're all fans of his, and there's a place for him here,
oh, there
even
is.
though he might have had a bad experience with a particular company, but your work is still desired, and that company is we won't even go there, you know.
No.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a, I mean, it's an experience. It wasn't
They're the
that
bottom of the
bad.
barrel, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wanted to really come through on that project. I really did. I maybe I'm shooting myself down too much, but I was really hoping. But it's the deadline just was crazy. I personally couldn't pull it off, and I tried my best, but I had to do both pencils and inks, and in 15 days it was really going to be tough. But I tried, and at least I did the best I could. It's all I can. And let me tell you, it's not the first comic book experience I've had, and they've all been kind of disasters in their own way.
I can tell you this. Let me interject one more time. I have a friend of mine on Twitter from a different community on YouTube, and he's an artist, and he's been giving me the same. I'm just going to say it, excuses of why he's not doing it. And I keep telling him, now's the time. There may not be another great opportunity like there is right now.
Oh yeah,
People are ready to buy an alternative that they've never been ready, like at least in 20 years. So now is the time. And like I said, I think you're better than him. You're a fantastic artist. So you really should jump in.
Well, I haven't given up yet. I want to still keep trying, and hopefully something will come of it. But what I find really exciting in the field of comics is the what's happening with indies. You see, they seem to be really taking off. It's my impression, which is a good thing, because a lot of people out there that couldn't do this before are now, thanks to technology and everything, are able to get their ideas published and whatnot, and not have to rely solely on the big publishers. You see, so and that would include myself, because I have a lot of ideas that I would love to get out there. Not only as far as drawings, but I have a lot of story ideas that I put together during all these past years, and I have them on file. And I'm thinking, well, I'd love to produce this sometime. And with what's happening now, I think is a great moment to be able to try to get into jump on the bandwagon, so to speak.
it absolutely is. It absolutely is. This is a cool thing that's going on, and would love to see your art as part of it. And like I said, you need to talk to us afterward. We could certainly get you involved in that. But we are coming up to the end of our show here today, guys. So what we want to do is just go through the panel and make sure if anybody has any other questions for Vince. Anybody?
Vince, where can people find you?
The best place to find me is on Facebook at Vince Rodriguez. And if there's other Vince Rodriguez's that come up, just look for the little Frankenstein with the yellow background, and that'll be my page. That's where I usually post my work to. And I'm also on ArtStation. You can look me up under Art by Vince. I have a lot of work posted there as well. Most of these images that you guys are seeing here are from there. And I don't go much to Instagram. I have an account there, but I really don't use it because I find Facebook much more interactive with everyone, and that's what I like to do. And I'm not on Twitter, so I mean, I have an account, but I don't use it either. So I haven't found much use for it yet. But maybe in some future.
Twitter is a toxic hole, dude.
Twitter.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, stay away.
Oh, I wanted to give you guys a side note. When I had explained that I'm able to do these drawings in a few hours and whatnot, please note that this is mostly because it is digital. And with digital, the time saver is just fantastic. It's phenomenal. If I was doing these traditionally, I'd probably be telling you, no, I did it in a few days. So that's the big difference, you know. So if you know, if I told you guys a few hours, not because I'm, you know, trying to show off or anything. It's that digital allows me to get past all the craziness of having to deal with traditional, like if you spill ink or the paintbrush isn't working right and yada yada, all the battles that one has to go through to finish a painting. Digital doesn't put that, just, you know, and that's why I'm able to, like I've said many times before, digital allows me now to concentrate on creating instead of fighting with the medium, you know.
Yeah,
so I just wanted to get that out there on my part.
Dude, your art is at a level that it doesn't matter. You don't have to make any excuses at all, dude.
I want to share something here with you guys. That this is just one page that I happen to save in a file that I call Vince of some of his sequential work. Now, next time we have you on, we want you to be able to show us the pages from this, because I know this has already been published, right?
Which one?
I'm showing the sort of the guy. He's laying in bed with the two women, and he's a big giant guy.
It's a Mesopotamian god.
Oh, that was for it was a story of Grendel. It was a short backstory to a comic book. It got published, and it was part of a series called Child of the Sun, which was a mixture of Hercules with I believe it was Samson.
Samson, that's right. It was Samson, yeah.
And they're both together in the story. So it's a mixture of the two stories, and they battle with these giants or whatever. And so I did a cover for one of the books, which I believe was number 7. I posted it a few times on Facebook,
right.
And the backstory was included in another book. Well, so it was probably the only short story I did for that.
Well, this actually looks more like Gilgamesh to me.
Gilgamesh. Yeah, oh, you're right. You're right. It's Gilgamesh. My mistake. Gilgamesh.
Okay.
But you can see the textures. I mean, even almost the textures in this room are just incredible. He almost make beautiful. It, you know, at times make it look like gold and stuff like that. I mean, you're talking about black and white, and your eye is picking up. Oh, this would be this, or this would be cloth, or this would be gold, or this would be gilded, or this would be, you know what I mean? Yeah. Incredible job. So I just wanted to show one little piece that I had in my file.
Of course, you've driven Booster silent with the nudity. So
it's very naughty if we get our channel taken down.
I think the one page that is my favorite is probably the one where he's diving off what would be, I think, the castle that he was in or something, where there's a big flood happening in the city and he dives off, and that one page I think is my favorite one, but I don't know if you guys have that one.
I actually don't, because this was something you shared with me sort of in confidence. And this was just a piece that you happened to share in a group of something. It was like, I don't have the bottom half. So you did send me all the complete pages, but I never saved them because it was sort of a, hey, this is what I'm working on kind of thing. But this was sort of a thing that, like I said, you shared in one of our groups. And so I grabbed it to sort of keep it because I love the textures. And that's why I have that particular piece of that page.
I don't know if at the time that I showed you those pages, I hadn't gotten to that one yet, the one that I had mentioned. So that's probably why. Because when I showed them to you, like you said, I was working on them, and the author allowed me to share a few of them because they still didn't have the dialogue. And I told them, look, get these out so people can see, you know, what you're doing, and hopefully, you know, it'll gain some interest, and you know,
Is that book
they'll look into it.
Is that book completed?
I believe so. Yes.
Oh wow!
I think it's the last book that he hasn't done yet. I think it was a series of 7 or 8 books, and the 8th one is still not published. I'm not sure.
Whose book is that? Because I actually wouldn't mind reading a story about Gilgamesh.
It's in the Child of the Sun. I think it's in book number 6, I believe. I don't recall yet. It's already been a little while. I can't remember too well.
That's all right. Who
next time you come on, though, be able to hook up to your files so that you can show us more sequential work.
That would be really cool. Yeah.
I mean, I probably have one other one. I can show.
Who's it? Who is it written by?
I don't know what this is.
Oh, I forgot the gentleman's name. Oh wow, what's his name again? I apologize. My memory is like shot.
That's all right. I'll dig it out. I'll dig it out.
Yeah, I mean, you can look it up on Amazon if you want. It's in there, and his name will come up.
Cool.
He wrote the story, and he also published it. But the cool thing about his series,
this particular page I'm showing right now, I think it might be part of it. It's sort of meteors seem to be falling to the Earth.
You're not showing anything falling into. Right now. You're not showing.
No, that was part of. Yeah, it's not. I don't see anything either on my side. No, but okay, I know the page you're talking about. That's another book. That's a different book.
Yeah. All right.
That was a story called Cross Mountain.
Yeah, look at that work. It's incredible. The detail and the.
And at that time, I even then I didn't feel my work was up to par. I mean, I appreciate you guys. Your comments and stuff, but I'm always shooting myself down. I always thought I could do so much better, but I wasn't yet very practiced. I had not done sequentials in years. You know, I had practiced it, and I lost practice. Even though I was doing storyboards, but you know what the problem with doing storyboards is that you have to work so fast, you get sloppy, and you get a little lazy.
If you ever want to feel better, I could always show you my artwork.
Well, you know. It's it was you know that.
Wow! Stop right there.
Yeah, right.
Stop.
Which one?
Dude.
This is Jimi Hendrix.
The world.
Dude.
It looks like Sienkiewicz did it, doesn't it? It's like incredible.
Is that the one where he's playing the guitar?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. He's playing on the white guitar.
Yeah, that one was fun to do.
Okay.
See, crazy. That's how much we like your work. I have a file of your stuff, you know, your hair studies and stuff.
Yeah. Dude,
oh, thanks, man. Awesome. I appreciate that.
Look at.
Okay, I see it now.
Yeah, likewise, Todd.
Right.
I am very
Todd,
very.
You do some amazing work, man. I love the way. I love your style and the way you do you handle your coloring. I find pretty unique, you know. And the brush work you do is pretty amazing as well. I mean,
thank you.
Every time you posted a page, I really got a kick out of seeing the stuff you did, because it kind of transports me with your style. You know, it's very slick, very classy. I really enjoyed seeing it a lot.
Look at that. Okay.
Yeah, that one goes a while. Is that the girl? The one with the leather?
So cool. Iron Fist. Kicking.
Iron Fist?
Yeah, he's kicking a guy. In the air.
That one. Oh, I thought that one came out terrible. I pulled that one down pretty fast.
It's whimsical, but it's really got a lot of energy.
Cool. Well, guys,
he's doing the line work that's gone. But,
look at
wow. No. Look at that.
That wasn't him. No, that is incredible. Look at that.
Yeah.
This is the Indian Vince.
All right.
The Indian boss.
We have. I would love to go on forever, but we have to stop the show. We are at our 2 hours, guys. And here's the thing, Vince. You are welcome here anytime, dude. You want to come in here and chat and involve with us with the news and stuff we're talking, you're welcome. If you want to come and talk about your art, you're welcome, dude. We very happy to have you on.
Miller.
Yeah, Ezra Miller.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys. I really appreciate that.
but
That would be terrific. Just hey, if you guys would like to have me, anytime, please also give me a holler. I'll be more than happy to see if I can join you guys.
oh,
But I
cool.
really appreciate that.
Well, actually, I sent you a link in your Facebook to a Discord, and that Discord is our Facebook Discord, and therefore all the links drop in there. So come in there and chat with us and interact with us there, dude. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's pull you in a little closer to all of this community, and there's definitely somebody out there that wants to work with you, and
Gentlemen?
I mean, there's guys here
Yes.
that want to work with you. So.
Yes, his
I,
name
I
is.
could give you some art tips if you like.
Yes, no,
Oh
no.
my God.
The
Hey,
person,
I'm all ears, man. I'm open. I'm open for
No,
new art tips.
the person who wants to work with you, his name is Chester. So you should check him
All
out
right.
later.
You know how we said that the best artists we've probably found of people that are kind of relative unknowns or whatever, and this has probably been Kanan White.
Yep.
Honestly, I think this gentleman's better than Kanan. He is spectacular.
Yeah,
Somebody
he's
needs to
really
work
cool.
with him.
But
If not
like I
that-
said,
Thank you so much. I'm deeply honored by your commentary, gentlemen. I don't know what to say. So.
no, well, thank you very much, Jonas. And that Facebook Discord link, you probably need to hit on that sooner than later because those things expire. If there's a problem with it,
Okay.
I'll send you another one. But we do
No
need
problem.
to end the show. So thank you all very much for coming. We really appreciate it, of course. And this was a fun show. We got to talk to Tim Lim and we got to speak to Vince Rodriguez. How awesome is that? So, guys, we will be checking you out. We have a show every day at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, of course. Tomorrow is our comics news. Somebody needs to mute. I don't know what's going on, but we need to have some muting, please.
Okay.
There we go. And
Oh,
that's
why
too
did he
bad.
leave?
Well, he's having trouble. He's had trouble today. We'll hopefully work on that in the back of it. But anyway, guys, thank you very much, and we will check you out later. So, Denali, take out the show, please.
Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. We have comics news today, tomorrow at our usual time at 8 p.m. Eastern. Everybody have a safe Black Friday. And thank you for spending some time with us. I hope you had amazing sales. We have already a guest lineup for next Friday. The author, artist on Stickman, Johnny Allen, will be joining us for that show.
Mhm.
And then tomorrow we'll pretty much figure out what's going to be the next topic for our Over and Under series in Bugs Bear Basement. So check us out on that time.
And of
Otherwise,
course,
you can
we have Andrew Huerta as well.
Ooh.
On Sunday.
definitely as well. Yes. So you can check
have
us
a
all
show on
out.
Sunday?
You can check us out on our Facebook channel. If you haven't, we always here at 8 p.m. and we are always sponsored by Indicron. So check it out if you haven't. I'm pretty sure you have. That's Indicron. That's INDIECRON.com. And it lists all the Indiegogos that are affiliated with our movement. So check us out. And otherwise, your perception shapes your reality. Always make it a good one.
Namaste.
Later, guys.
Good night.
Pleasure. Good night.
Bye.